Good evening. I'm going to call the budget hearing of the Hoyoke School Committee to order at 6 o'clock on May 27th, 2025. Roll call, please.
Mayor Garcia,
Here.
Dr. Rivera,
Present.
Present.
Brown Martin,
Here.
Aki.
Callahan.
Here.
Ms. Wilson.
Here. Present.
Yes.
Pledge of Allegiance, please.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
On March 29th, 2023, Governor Healy signed into law a supplemental budget bill, which among other oh, this is the wrong write-up. On March 29th, 2025, Governor Maura Healey signed into law H62 is amended by Senate 2506, which contains the final form of the bill entitled An Act Relative to Extending Certain COVID-19 Measures Adopted During the State of Emergency Interest to All Government Public Bodies in Massachusetts, an act until June 30th, 2027, the authority for meetings of multiple member bodies to be held in an entirely remote or hybrid format. All public bodies may hold remote or hybrid meetings without physical presence of a quorum of the public body as long as adequate alternative means of public access is provided. Pursuant to MGL 30A Section 20, I'm hereby informing all attendees that a video and audio recording is being made of the meeting, and the meeting is being live streamed run on the city's community TV channel. So I will also entertain a motion at this time to appoint me interim vice chair for this meeting and the beginning of the next meeting.
I second that motion.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Williams, seconded by Ms. Wilson. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passes. Purpose of this meeting is for a hearing on the FY26 budget of the school department budget. Are there any members of the public wishing to give comment regarding the FY26 budget? Anyone online? Seeing that there is no comment from the public during the public hearing of the budget, I will entertain a motion from the school committee to adjourn the public hearing of the FY26 budget.
I'd like to.
Okay, moved by Mr. Wellahan, seconded by Mr. Izaza. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. The public hearing of the FY26 budget will stand adjourned at 6:03. Going to call to order the May 27th meeting of the Hoyoke School Committee at 6:15 p.m. Roll call, please.
Mayor Garcia,
Here.
Dr. Rivera Colon,
Present.
Present.
Mr. Brown Martinez,
Here.
Ms. Williams,
Aki.
Mr. Izaza.
Here.
Mr. Willoughby,
Here.
Mr. Collmore, Ms. Wilson.
Present.
Pledge of Allegiance.
To the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Just want to take a moment of silence just to reflect on Memorial Day yesterday and to reflect on all those that are lost and honor families and people who are there defending us and our democracy. Thank you. To read this again. March 29th, 2025, Governor Healy signed into law bodies to H62 and S2506 entitled Act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency. Of interest to all governmental bodies in Massachusetts, an act extends until June 30th, 2027, the authority for meetings of multiple member bodies to be held in an entirely remote or hybrid format, and all public bodies may hold fully remote or hybrid meetings without the physical presence of a quorum of the public body, as long as adequate alternative means of public access is provided. Notice is hereby given in accordance with Chapter 28 of the Acts of 2009, Section 17 through 20 of the Massachusetts General Laws, that a regular meeting of the Hoyoke School Committee will be held on May 27, 2025, and hereby informing all attendees that a video and audio recording is being made of the meeting, and the meeting is being live streamed and run live on the city's community TV channel. We have no student showcase. Ms. Lefebvre, was there any public comment signed up?
No.
Okay, communication reports.
Point of order. That's Miss Feliciano.
Oh, right, I don't know why I said Ms. Lefebvre. Well, you know what I meant. Yeah.
And she answers.
Well, maybe I was asking you. We have no student reports. I don't think any of them online. No. Okay. Moving on to superintendent's report. Mr. Soto. Yep. Ms. Wilson.
Sorry, for the students, we haven't had anyone for dean for a while since the shift, and I'm wondering, is there anyone? I know it's the end of the year and all, but I have always enjoyed learning from our students about what's happening in our schools, and I find it disappointing when they're not here. So I'm just going to stress the point that they are missed, and they are a good part of this committee. And I just want to let it be known that, hopefully we can start the year off next year and have people who are committed to attending these meetings. Thank you.
Mr. Soto.
Yeah, included in your packet is a bunch of FYIs, really, but we wanted to make sure that you saw what the timeline was for developing our school operating plans and our SIP plans. You can see that the principals right now are in the process of collecting some feedback from all the staff. They've been doing that since May 13th all the way through May 30th. I have met with the HTA leadership and just reminded them of that and provided them with the opportunity to give feedback. We are looking to get feedback all in one place, so we created a form that allows us to collect this feedback, and the feedback is going to be due back to Jackie Gasheen by June 2nd, and then we hope to finalize the school operating plans based on that feedback and send them back to schools on June 9th so that they can be, finals can be distributed June 10th. And then for our school improvement plans, we've laid out a similar timeline. This one's a little bit trickier in that normal school improvement plans are written for the entire year, and what we have noticed in practice is that when we visit schools and do our quarterly SIP reviews, depending on what is going on in that quarter, what student data they're collecting, what issues are going on in a particular given school, their focus and their problem of practice tends to shift every quarter. Sometimes it doesn't, but sometimes it does, and we've been able to, those meetings, I'm really proud of how much more effective they are now than they were in the past. Our team goes there, sits down with the principals and their leadership team, and it's almost like a consultancy where they're able to share some highlights around their data, share some concerns around their data, and then share a focus area or a problem of practice that they're considering for the upcoming quarter. And we have our district team there to support them, to brainstorm ideas, and to basically name, like, here's what the schools are going to do this quarter as it relates to this problem of practice. Here's how the district is going to support it. And then through the EDSO visits, it's regularly monitored, and we make sure that we do that. So I say that it's unique in that we want to create 4 cycles of learning, or that we will quarterly get feedback from both school councils, and we'll share as part of our regular updates, so that you guys are all brought up to speed, and the school councils have an opportunity to weigh in on the cycle of improvement. So as opposed to, like, I know we have our annual plans and our district benchmarks and our district goals and all the project plans that go along with that. Schools in June, our leaders get together as part of the June retreat, kind of recap the year, start planning for the next year. They're going to take some time during that retreat to start their first cycle of improvement for next year, and you guys will get a copy of that prior to July 1.
Ms. LaFave.
So when you talk about school councils, are you talking about the school improvement councils, where it's members of the community, plus staff, plus a student? And are we still
school
doing that?
councils. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I some schools have been really good about and have had some attendance there, and then other schools have struggled with attendance. Our goal we do have a goal in the upcoming year, and we want to share with the school committee, like, these were the guidelines that were given the principals on who should be in their school councils, and so that like what process schools are going through to get people on this school council. It could be teachers, it could be parents, could be students, but we want to share all those details once the schools have an opportunity to create them for next year.
Ms. Wilson.
So I need to understand again, what's EDSL? I find it challenging that I'm not always aware of the acronyms that are being used, and it really, as in any good common practice, we should define the term before we use it in an acronym. And I would ask that we respectfully do that going forward. So what does EDSL stand for?
It's an executive director of school leadership, and happy to answer any clarifying questions when they come up.
I would prefer not to have clarifying questions. I'd prefer to have the acronyms spelled out initially when you present information to us, rather than me having to create a cheat sheet so I understand what's being informed to me. I just think it's straightforward and common when you're writing that you typically define a term before you use it in an acronym. So it's the executive director of
School leadership. So currently that's Jackie Gasheen and Mrs. Gravlin, Sarita Gravlin.
Thank you.
It's the executive director of school leadership. So essentially the principals, supervisors. They're there, they meet with the principals on a weekly basis. They support them with their school improvement plans. They support them with walking through classrooms and observing a lot of the instructional work and provide them with any guidance and support that they need along the way throughout the entire school year.
Ms. Wilson?
Can, since Ms. Glashina is going to be transitioning to a new role, is there a, are you going to be looking to fill the Ed Sol position that she is vacating?
No, that was one of the cuts that was made in the FY26 budget
Just
that we
wanted to
presented.
clarify that. Thank you.
And so moving on from the SOPs and SIPs, school improvement plans and school operational plans, we have in your packet just a summary of what we're offering for summer school. Again, just informational. We have summer school offerings at all grade levels, and that's included in your packet. We do have registration open now. I believe it closes June 15th. And there's contact information from anybody in the public, any families that are interested in enrolling their students in summer school. And we also have an update to some capital requests that are not capital requests, to some capital projects that came forward through the Finance and Operations subcommittee and this full committee. We just provided a detailed update of a lot of the capital improvements that are currently ongoing right now. Included in your budget document, you actually have the full capital plan. The only thing that was taken out was the actual forms that get sent to the city for the specific capital requests that go in, but for the most part, the capital improvement plan is included in the budget document at the end. I believe it's the last section of the budget document. And we wanted to just give you an update on the current improvement projects that we have going on.
Any other questions for Mr. Soto?
Actually, I do have a question.
ahead,
I'm going to
Ms.
go
Wilson.
back to the summer programming. How is it determined which schools get which programs? Because I'm seeing that there's a Generation Teach program at Sullivan. There's this Beyond the Bell program at Morgan. And then other programs seem to be that they're going to be developed by HPS employees because there's no organization name beside those. So I'm just wondering, how is it decided that Generation Teach and then this other program at Morgan was put in place?
Yeah, so the Gen Teach is for all middle school kids. It's not necessarily Sullivan School. That's just where the program is going to be located, but that's open to all summer school
Right.
kids that apply. The Rising K-2 is open to anybody in the district. Rising 3 to 5 open to anybody. Morgan did do, through a collaboration between Sam Garcia, who's our manager of extended learning, and some grants. They wanted to start their own program there. So that's how that was lifted. It was through grant funds and through a school-initiated request to support a program that they wanted to have specific to their building. We haven't received similar requests from any other schools, and generally speaking, enrollment, we're not bursting at the seams. We're actually struggling to get students to come to summer school. So that's why we can't just have a program at every school,
Right.
because it would just be fiscally irresponsible and not feasible.
Mm-hmm.
But if we had a ton more students and families interested, we probably would be able to do something like that.
So I'm assuming, if I may come back, the Beyond the Bell was decided to be the program at Morgan School with the manager of extended learning as well as the principal and others at Morgan School. That's
Yeah.
who decided to use that program.
Yes.
And how is that program vetted?
It's vetted, the principal works with the extended learning manager. The extended learning manager also collaborates with the academics team to make sure that everything is aligned to the curriculum and aligned programmatically to what we think a high quality summer school program is. And that's just, that's ultimately how we end up doing all of our summer programs, really.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on. Just to note, we are planning a meeting on July 21st. The vice chair put that in the agenda, just because it was thought that having the meeting at the end of June and not one until late August is just not conducive to timing, especially as we transition through that. So July 21st, there will be a meeting. Moving on to new business, out-of-state field trips. I'll entertain a motion that the school committee vote to accept the out-of-state field trip to the University of Memphis, Tennessee on June 4th through the 7th. Moved by Mr. Izaza. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. LeBron Martinez. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passes. The school committee vote to approve the out-of-state field trip to Mystic Aquarium on May 29th, 2025. Moved by Mrs. LeBron Martinez. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Tensley Williams. Discussion.
Already said it. It's already been said in previous meetings. The 29th is 2 days away. It's going to be a sharp, I'm sorry,
No, go ahead,
Thank
Mrs.
you.
Wilson.
it's going to be a sharp learning curve for our district because these will not be approved next year if they come with this type of timing. It's just that simple. And I would hate our students to lose out. So it's going to be a significant re-education of our staff in order for them to understand the timelines that are required for out-of-state field trips.
Mr. Soto.
I think I haven't received any feedback that so the feedback that I received was incomplete forms. I think these are all complete. And the one thing that I'll add, and I'm not trying to sound defensive, but I'm happy to work with you, Ms. Wilson. Mr. Mangano reached out to you through email to sit down and to talk about how we could update the out-of-state field trip forms, and we haven't heard back yet, but happy to sit down with you and create something that works for you and works for the committee so that we can make sure that we don't run into the issues that you're describing.
Thank you.
I think though the point is though too that it's also pushing the administration, the school committee, is we either approve it if we were actually approving this, approve it today, or kids aren't going in 2 days. I mean so what is a whole trip going to be canceled? I mean I think it's more timing that this is an approval process to begin your process of booking stuff. So things shouldn't be booked until you have approval. I think that's the process with this, that money has probably been expended already, right, on the trip.
Yeah, we've worked with a travel agent, so
Right, so money's been expended and all of this. So I think it's more the point that those types of things are going to be the prior planning. That yes, there are things that come up last minute. Clearly, the one that we approved to Memphis seems to be a very well planned, but it came more suddenly than a normal trip to the Mystic Aquarium. Schools plan out for months where they're going at the end of the year, and if they don't, then that's a problem too. But I think that's the point. That 2 days to approve something, and maybe you should be asking for your office for approval because you and your leadership teams have to vet them 90 days in advance. I mean, maybe there should be something that if you don't have it 90 days in advance, then it doesn't get approved. But that's a safeguard that you may want to put in. But it puts everyone in a very difficult situation when field trip requests come with 2 days, and same thing when we start approving out-of-state staff travel. I mean, we've not seen any of those, so I'm assuming no one's traveling this summer out of state. Because the school committee hasn't seen any of those. So it's that problem too. People are going to have to plan ahead on these things. Mrs. Wilson?
So the current policy says that the form is filled out 60 days in advance. So
Okay.
it's not a change in policy I was asking for. I was asking, and it said that once approved, the form must be sent to the superintendent's office and approved by the superintendent and the school committee. So 60 days in advance is definitely not being met. And so I have looked at it. I haven't looked at the form, and I guess I'll be looking at clarifying the language of how far in advance it needs to be sent to the school committee. So I can do that. That will definitely be done.
Yeah,
Thank
happy
you.
to sit down. This is good discussion. We want to work with you and come up with something that's going to work.
Ms. LaFave?
So again, we had talked about this in the local control subcommittee today in regards to really understanding once we move forward on July 1st, currently until all policies, only the ones that have been finally approved through the school committee to become effective July 1st. But if we're looking at student travel in JJH, just so that everyone's aware, the school committee requires that final approval be sought no less than 30 days prior to the scheduled trip dates. Just keeping in mind, the minimum is 30 days.
Yeah, and I mentioned to you that we're going to put together a project plan reviewing all the policies, and these are some things that we're going to have to, once we have that project plan together, there's going to be some professional learning that we have to do with our principals and anybody that's impacted. So part of that is going to be educating them that they have to get, these in advance so that we can get them to the school committee in time.
Ms. LaFave?
I'm not sure if that's something that you are. It's going to be like a real changeover for everyone. There is staff that has been here before receivership, so, but at the same time, it's been 10 years, so you kind of forget. Oh my God, what did we used to do 10 years ago, right? Is that something that maybe you might want to bring up during your
The leader retreat, yeah.
your leadership retreat, as well as even to your staff during convocation, I believe it is, or
I wouldn't do it at convocation, but I would.
however,
do it at the
or a
leader
welcome
retreat.
packet. I don't care what it is, but people need to understand, because at the end of the day, those that are setting up these field trips is not your leadership, it's not your principal, it's the teachers that are starting the process first.
Yeah, we're not training every single staff member. We're going to train our principals, and they're expected to, make sure they communicate with staff expectations on things that they, could typically get away with a shorter timeline.
Back to the motion at hand for the out-of-state field trip to Mystic Aquarium. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. Motion passes. That the approval of minutes, the school committee vote to accept and approve the meeting minutes of the December 18th, 2024 Policy and Governance Subcommittee meeting. Moved by Mrs. December 18th, 2024. Moved by Mrs. LaFave. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Izaza. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say nay. The school committee vote to accept and approve the meeting minutes of the
So
April
moved.
2nd, 2025 Policy and Governance meeting. Moved by Mrs. LaFave. Is there a second? Seconded by Ms. Tensley Williams. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Any
Aye.
opposed say nay. Motion passes. Updates of committees, policy and governance.
We're going to be meeting, our next meeting is on June 11th. We'll be meeting. At Suffolk Street. We're going to continue with J and move on from there.
Finance and operations.
Thank you. The committee met on May 22nd. We approved 2 sets of minutes from March and April, so those will be on your packet probably at our next meeting. There was 3 financial transfers that we approved. Those again will be on our next full meeting here. And the committee reviewed the fiscal year 26 budget with our finance director. We reviewed that. We had questions again, just the user questions involving transportation costs, that type of stuff. The uncertainty in the federal funding moving forward that was discussed. The committee approved the budget, and we voted to recommend its adoption, and we forwarded that to tonight's meeting. Thank you.
Joint City Council, School Committee, nothing to report, okay. Local Control Subcommittee,
So we met this evening and we discussed the exit assurances. We will need to schedule one for June as we have the community advisory team. They already held their 2 in-person community meetings on May 19th and the virtual on May 21st. Tomorrow they're going to be meeting to compile all the feedback that they have received to then present it to the local control and the school committee. That's it.
and Leadership, Accountability, and Measurement, we're meeting tomorrow at 4 at Central Office. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Mrs. LeBron Martinez.
Is one of these meetings are the ones that they're also meeting about superintendent?
That's what it was about.
Okay, thank you.
Ongoing business, the school committee vote to accept and approve the FY26 budget. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. LaFave. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Wellahan. Discussion? Mrs. LaFave. I'm going to go to Mr. Well. Oh,
That's fine. No. Go ahead, Mr. Wellahan, because you might answer my question.
Hopefully, I might give you some more questions.
Oh, no.
Thank you. Once again, the budget was discussed through the finance committee. Again, just for the public to be aware that, for the budget, only 12% of the budget comes from local funding. So the state makes up the difference, 88%. So that's where we are in that. That's been historically, right, the fact. The budget is basically up about 5% generally, which is, less than the rate of inflation. So again, I think it's a fair budget. It kind of meets our goals that we established last year in terms of what our funding priorities should be. And I just want to commend Mr. Soto, commend our finance director for having a balanced budget. Again, a lot of towns are having overrides or having budget issues, budget deficits. So again, the budget is fair, and I think it meets our goals. Thank you.
Mrs. LaFave.
So just a few things that I do appreciate is really looking at how the out-of-district tuition has gradually been increasing since 2021 to where we are going to now in 2026. And really where the funding is coming from and where we have to obtain the rest, just to account for the students' needs and to pay for their out-of-district placement. I also like the fact of the dollar and how if you're looking at the dollar, how it's spent. So 63% is just in salaries and benefits. I think it's for those that actually did have a chance to look through this from the public, it's really looking at the breakdown. People always ask, well, where's all this money going? You get so much and blah, blah, but let's really look at it, and when we're looking at health insurance, and it's just rising for everyone. But here's my question. When I'm looking at the staffing budget summaries and the school report card for each of the schools, I see what the plan is for 2026. But when I'm looking at the...
Excuse me, can you reference a page? Just
Oh,
the page
I'm
number
sorry.
on there just for everyone's.
Well, just looking at 103.
Okay.
But I mean, it's going to be for every school. 103, 104. And then I'm looking at the school report card, and I see the student data, teacher data. For one, the accountability targets, it looks like we're regressing in some areas when we're looking at 2024. I don't know what 2025 is yet, but I see where you're at in staffing. Does that mean that this teacher data of student to teacher ratio, is that what's going to happen for that current year? Is that what the finance is based off of, or is this based off of what was obtained during we'll say it would be 2024 for the last summary? And where would we be at then now, moving forward in 2026, if that wouldn't be this teacher to student or student to teacher ratio?
Yeah, the information on the report card is public information that anybody can go grab. It's actually what the last year that it was reported. So for the information that's in the budget document, it's referencing last year. It's not forward looking. Those aren't like projections or anything. The staffing, you can see that our staffing is actually a projection. So the staffing and the financial information it gives you currently and what we're projecting for next year, but all the school report cards, we just pull them right off of the DESI's website, and that information is from 24.
Can I have a?
Yeah, go ahead.
So with that being said, when I'm looking at the student teacher ratio, what we're looking at for the 2024 ending or whatever the information, it's 11.7 to 1. Are we looking at a higher class size this year? Are we looking at kind of maintaining? Because at the end of the day, if we're looking at it where we were at here, and if we're looking at the student growth, that looks like smaller class sizes on an average. It would be an average. But yet we're not meeting the growth when it comes to the students' performance. There could be a lot of factors involved in that. I understand that. So I was just looking to see where are we when it's in terms to class sizes. Are we looking at staying the same, or would it be increasing?
Yeah, in next year's budget, we're not proposing any class size increases. That was one of the things that was very important as we were getting feedback through the budget development process from all the stakeholders that we get feedback from. We wanted to, that's essentially Sean and his team and our leadership team. Our job during the budget development process is to try to keep, when there's cuts, and there had to be cuts. This was a year where we were looking at $2 million deficit, and more when you factor in some things that we had to add to the budget. Our initial goal is like, how could we solve this budget deficit without actually impacting the classroom? And we got to think creatively, make some tough decisions. But one thing we for sure stayed away from was class sizes, which you can see those class size proposals on, or kind of the target ratios that we have on page 13 of the budget document. The number that you see on the report cards, it factors all teaching positions. So it's not, doesn't mean that in every classroom there's 11 kids, because we do have some teachers that pull kids out for instruction, that, for Seagrid services. We have other counselors, for example, that might be in that teacher count according to the states, how they determine their in their information system, the class sizes. So that's literally how the state calculates what the class sizes are. But when we look at just core gen ed classrooms, and when we look at our substantially separate programs, we kind of set these target class sizes that we have. We didn't touch those. And in fact, we increased the amount of money that we give to principals to develop their discretionary budget by about 5%.
I just have
Go
one
ahead.
last. When you're looking at the class sizes, I hope you're also taking into account the acuity level, in the sense of the number of students that may have high needs or may have would need more support. So be it on an IEP, giving one class 6 on an IEP versus another class with 1, but not having the same. I'm hoping that that's also thought of when you're looking at
Yeah.
not only just class size, but ensuring that the mixture and the level that the teacher's going to be receiving, there's equity across the board.
Yeah, I mean, our sub-separate programs are staffed separately, and our gen ed classrooms often take into consideration how many students are actually pushing in for in the inclusion setting. So we definitely look at, just generally speaking, what's our class size, even when those students are pushing in for inclusion, and we try to stay within these ratios. And sometimes that means, you know, throughout the course of the year, sometimes what we'll have to do is cap a particular grade at a school, because they're tight, and that happens. It doesn't happen often, but it's not out of the realm of possibility, and we've run into situations like that where a student may be zoned for third grade at Lawrence, but there's just no space, so they end up going to Morgan or something like that.
With transportation, I take it?
Yeah, we wouldn't. Yeah.
Mr. Wellahan?
Thank you again. Yeah, the budget was presented to the full city council last week. I know Mr. Soto and our finance director did a great job explaining the budget, the pros and cons of it. I know there wasn't a lot of pushback. I know we had questions on the transportation costs. I know we've had those same discussions in here, trying to kind of solve that. We're going maybe thinking outside the box. Electric buses, having our own vans. I know we're having a consultant come in and review our programs and our routes. So again, we're trying to address that deficit. I know the state, the funding formula is basically broke. You'll see towns, surrounding towns, are all having budget deficits in their schools. The problem is Holyoke, just because of the makeup of the city, we have to have a budget that just meets the net school spending requirements. Other communities have the capacity to present a budget above that. Then again, Northampton has a budget deficit. They were bailed out by Smith College. They made a substantial financial donation to the town. Amherst College, again, made a substantial donation to the town of Amherst, to their school system. Holyoke doesn't have those resources, again, just because of the makeup of the city, we're doing the best we can, and I'm proud of our team. Thank you.
Any other questions? I do have a question about Dunniu School, page 85. Looking at all of the schools' staffing allocation and budgets, all the personnel budgets, even with staffing remaining flat or being reduced, the amounts of the budgets went up for personnel costs. How at Dunniu did they go up by 5 additional staff members from 25 to 26, yet go down in their personnel allocation per budget?
I'm going to ask Sean to come up if that's okay.
Yep.
Good. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Good question. So one change that was made this school year, but you're seeing it for the first time in the FY26 budget, is that paraprofessionals, we have stopped. They used to be coded with a school account. We're coding them with a district account going forward to manage the overall number better. So when you look at Donahue, where it's going from 110 to 115, the reason why it's going up is if you look at the paraprofessional line, it's going up by 6, but that cost isn't going up down below because we reflect the cost for paraprofessionals in the pupil services budget. So really it's staffing's going down overall, and in the teaching FTs it's going down, but it's being offset by that increase in paras, which is actually the dollars associated with them are actually reflected somewhere else. So you'll see in the pupil services, we have a large account with all the district-wide paras to allow us to work with ETLs better, education team leaders better around where the one-on-one needs are, where the shared needs are. So they're budgeted centrally, and that's a change we made this year, which is why that looks a little funny.
Okay, so why is no other school experiencing that type of?
There's a lot of changes up and down both ways. I think this school, the reason is because it's going up because of the paras. And Donahue is actually where we have the most paras in the district.
Okay.
The ABL program.
Yeah.
But I was looking at that same thing before preparing because it is like optically it looks weird where the staffing would go up and the budget would go down. But that's the reason why. And there's a couple of there's some teaching positions that have gone away there because of the staffing allocation, which is what's driving the cost down there. But again, just as a refresher, all our allocations with staff, they're driven by our staffing allocation methodology, which covers a wide range of positions. It's enrollment based at different levels of enrollment, whether it's special education enrollment or just classroom size, so on. But we've updated that document, spent a lot of effort. We review it every year with principals and other department heads and get feedback, and then we roll it out. And I think that's something, again, we're happy to share with you all at some point if you'd like to look at it.
Yeah, and then what is the reduction? They're going from 4 principals/administrators to 3. What is that?
So in FY25, there was, let me just double check. Yeah, it's a dean of students position. So they have given up a dean position because they have a strong assistant principal who's got some of that background. So they've given up a dean position for FY. They actually did it this year, and they're doing it again next year.
In order to keep the
DMO.
Dean of Management and Ops, yep.
So we have a staffing allocation based on all that, but do we have the staffing allocation also based on administrators?
So in the methodology, there is a administrator allocation. It's not driven by students as much as it's more like one principal per school. If you're a small elementary school, you get one assistant principal. If you're a large high school, you get 3 assistant principals. So it's in the methodology, but it's more just how big is the school versus like a direct enrollment ratio.
So how are things added like these dean positions?
So we have, one of the things I've really loved about Holyoke is we have a very collaborative budget building process with principals. So we work with principals, we give them their baseline allocation methodology, and then we meet, we have a hearing with them. They bring their ideas and their thoughts to that hearing. And sometimes it means this position was allocated to you and they've got a good rationale for why they would like to do something different with it. And so Anthony will review those and decide whether or not to approve an adjustment, like give up an allocated position like the dean in exchange for what we call sort of a principal's discretion position like the dean of management operations. And then they also get some per pupil funding, as the superintendent mentioned, where they can actually add new positions or they can put it towards supplies or field trips or whatever.
Any other questions? So on the motion, and I actually want to clarify the motion that we took. So it should be, the motion should be, and as long as the makers of the motion don't object, it's coming from this sheet that you all received. Everyone have this sheet. Should be that the school committee adopt a general fund operating budget of $123,881,471 for the Holyoke Public Schools and appropriated by the cost center below. And Irene can actually insert this whole thing into the minutes that's from there. So as long as none of the makers of the motion object to that, that's the motion that we're going to be voting on. So, and since it's the budget, it does need to be a roll call. And Mr. Wellahen's name was drawn tonight to go first. So we'll be starting with the roll call, and then I will be turning things right over to my right.
I'll vote yes.
Ms. Olson?
Yes.
Garcia?
Yes.
Dr. Rivera Colon?
Yes.
Mr. Sheehan?
Yes.
Ms. LaFave?
Yes.
Brown Martinez?
Yes.
Ms. Tency William?
C.
And Mr. Izaza.
Okay, motion passes and, oh,
Ms. Wilson.
So the school calendar's on page 120, and I can't recall, was this brought before the school committee already? I just couldn't remember. Thank you. I thought it was, but I wasn't sure.
Mayor Garcia.
Soto just whispered over to me a very important moment. You just voted on your first budget in what? How many years? 9, 10 years? So congratulations.
Yeah.
just so people know and for the public, there's some question whether or not we had the authority to vote on the budget because it wasn't, a letter did not come from DESI giving that authority. But since it was in the transition plan, DESI looked at that as that was the granting authority for that. So just if there's any questions on that, other things had letters, but this did not become that.
Mr. Soto.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you to everybody. And I wanted to just kind of give everyone a heads up that it's very typical in Holyoke for on July 1, the final budget to be released and for us to have to do an adjustment to the budget to align to the state's final budget. So I wouldn't be surprised when we come back in July or in August to adjust the budget according to the final budget that ultimately gets passed. Right now, what we have is the Senate's version of it, but it goes through conference committee and then it goes right to the governor, and they either they either adopt. There could be a veto in there somewhere, but once we get those finalized numbers, we will be coming back and just adjusting the budget accordingly. I don't anticipate any major changes. There usually never is. It's usually in the charter reimbursement and charter accounts that we see some changes that impact the overall appropriation. But thank you for your vote tonight. We appreciate it. And I want to thank Sean. I want to thank all the leaders that had an input in developing this budget. As Sean mentioned, it's not me and Sean sitting behind a door just coming up with a budget. It's a very collaborative process. Each department head has an opportunity to develop their budget and state, impacts on, what certain cuts would have. Every single principal comes in and presents their budget and gives us an indication of what challenges they might see. So I really want to thank everybody that was involved in developing the budget. And again, thank you for your approval.
Mr. Sheehan.
And I don't think this has been mentioned at a meeting yet, and I don't want to steal the mayor's thunder, but since he didn't bring it up, I'll bring it up. In April, Senator Velas was actually able to secure about $120,000 for the public schools for renovating the high school auditorium. And that's still in conference committee, but we can feel pretty good and confident that we're going to be able to make those improvements between now and 2028 and to have that done and some significant funding for that auditorium and those upgrades. So I know that was because of the mayor's advocacy to Senator Velas that we were able to get that done through fair share money, which is really changing the way that we can operate here in the Commonwealth.
Devin, thank you, Devin.
All the mayor.
All right. Thank you, Devin, for stepping in too and helping out. That was really good. So we're down to the announcements. And please do not forget, we have graduations coming up. So if you need any clarification or anything, just feel free to let me know and I can make sure you have what you need. So at this time, not open to the public because of open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of public body for the purpose of the Holyoke Teaching Association contract. calling executive session. Second. And we will not be returning to open meeting. Roll call.
Mayor Garcia?
Yes.
No, Mr.
No,
Wellham.
Oh,
Mr.
sorry,
Willoughby starts.
Sorry, Mr. Willoughby.
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mayor Garcia?
Yes.
Dr. Rivera Colon?
Yes.
Mr. Sheehan?
Yes.
Ms. LaFave?
Yes.
Mr. Brown Martinez?
Yes.
Ms. Tensi Williams?
See.
And Mr. Izaza?